Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Opinion Machine, the show where we talk about all things gaming. My name is Killjoy, and today we're going to be talking about Comic Bakery, but not the game itself, the bit of music that precedes this. So Comic Bakery was a game that came out on the C64. You've probably never heard of it. If you have heard the name, you probably know it because of the music. And today we're going to be talking about that music and basically why it's so damn catchy. But it did make me chuckle when I realised that, you know, a lot of people probably know this bit of music better than the game. The game itself was very average. A lot of C64 games were quite simple. So I'll probably get a lot of flack for that now. But if you're not prepared, I mean, this is obviously C64. You might not be a big fan of the sound quality, but essentially there's 3 different versions of this track that I want to listen to. We're not going to dissect every single one in detail, but I do want to talk about the fact that this bit of music, has been used in multiple games over the years, mainly sort of in the 90s. But ultimately, like, it's a catchy track. So let's have a listen, shall we? Because I guarantee there's going to be people watching this going, "What's Comic Bakery?" and they're going to recognise it. The joys of the C64. So you're probably thinking, maybe. By the way, music by Martin Galway. Just want to point out he's the composer of this track. So ready? Here's the melody. Some of you going, yes, I do know this. And there's that classic C64 sound. Wop, 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 wop. So yeah, Comic Bakery. Hell of a track. Oh, that note that comes in there. So yeah, some of you are probably going, "Oh, it's this track. It's been remixed by a bunch of people. It's been covered by a bunch of people. It's a very famous piece of music in the gaming world, though I do think maybe people, younger generations, might not know it. But it's basically one of the things that precedes the game. Like, the likelihood is you're not going to recognize the game. You are going to see that it says Konami on the screen, and that's who published it, I believe. But yeah, it's damn catchy. That melody, that da 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 da, it's just playing up and down, but oh my god, is it catchy. Then we get this come in. It's probably like a guitar solo, you know? Now, Martin Galway apparently is quite famous for a lot of C64 music. Personally, this is one of my favourites. But this is not where I originally heard it. I will play that in a minute. And it took me a while before I realised this bit of music was from this game. So, you get a bit of slide there. It's very well composed for its time, considering the limitations of the hardware. Some people are going to dislike it, I understand that. Lots of bends, lots of slides. It is a little bit out of tune. But for a loader tune, pretty impressive, right? This is before you even get into the game. Other versions of the game don't have this track. Like, I think C64 ZX Spectrum have this bit of music. Drop out, I love that. The track's got dynamics. It's catchy. It's got a hell of a memorable melody. It's like it's taken off as well. Most of this doesn't even have that classic melody playing, actually, which is interesting. There's the second half of the melody. It just keeps going. The sound keeps changing. I love it. That comes to an end. Let's just go back and play the main melody bit before we can move on. Because the main melody bit that plays now is the bit that everybody knows. Da, 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 da. It's just a really catchy piece of video game music. There's nothing crazy about it, but it has stood the test of time. So what I wanted to do is, obviously that's the original track. I think the original track is very good. I'm going to play you a version now, which you might be more familiar with from a different game. And then we're going to finish off with the other game that I'm aware of anyway. So let's hop on over to the next game. Right, Jurassic Park for the Game Boy, or the NES. The NES technically was the version that came first. We're going to listen to the Jurassic Park version on the Game Boy because this is the version that I first heard this track. And I kind of prefer it, but I think that's my own biases here. I do have a thing for the Game Boy soundtrack. Sound chip, sorry. Alright, so we are starting off as a very different song here. We've got a bit of that like sort of fear going, whoa. And you'll see the change that happens. 1993 this came out. This version, by the way, is composed by Jonathan Dunn. He also did the NES music as well. So I don't know why he decided, maybe he just wanted to pay homage. Because now we get the change. There's the bleeps and blues. It works so well. There's the melody. But we get a change here where normally the melody only plays once and it moves on, but that's not what happens here. We go up an octave, up a key or an octave, I'm not sure which one it is. About 1 minute and so many seconds. Oh, I love it. It's one of the most memorable Game Boy tracks. I mean, the Game Boy has a lot of catchy music. The music generally is very much bleeps and bloops, and it has to have strong melodies and things like that. But it's such a clever piece of music with a dun 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 dun. Like, now that you hear it, you can see why they merge so well together. They have a bounciness of the same sort of speed, same sort of time signature, all that sort of stuff, BPM, and it just seamlessly blends from one to the other. Like I when I first heard it, you know, this is the game that I first heard this track in. It wasn't until years later I realised what the track was. Comic Bakery, didn't realise that was its own game, and hearing the original, and I'm just like, this is my favourite version of it. I just find that melody to be incredibly like catchy, very strong, and we'll just listen to this change that we have here. So this track is very ominous, right? You're in the park, you're shooting dinosaurs with a bazooka. It's setting up this scene before we get a very different vibe for it, really. Whoa, dinosaurs, be careful. You know, that's the vibe I get. And get its own melody. And then plays it again. And then just along the way he was like, do you know what works really well here? And it works way too, maybe I'm used to it, it works so well. Blah, 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 and then the melody. And it's a strong melody because it sounds great on the Game Boy. It's just, there's something about this track, and I think everyone's going to have, there's a few different versions of it. And I think people are going to have their own biases towards it. I love the original, don't get me wrong. There's something about the Game Boy chip that I just really appreciate it. If you've seen my video on Turok Rage Wars, you know why. I think you can do some incredible things with it. But there is one more version that I have found more out in the last sort of 5 years, 6 years, where I actually didn't realise it was used again. I thought it was like in the Jurassic Park games. I think it gets reused in another Jurassic Park game. But it also gets used in a different game. So let's move on over to that one. Okay, so our final game, Platypus, a PC game that is got, essentially, as you can see there, very much a clay art style. I didn't know about this version until much later on. I'm not sure I'm going to play all 6 minutes of it because it goes on for a while, but I do want to jump around because it starts off as its own. It starts off as Comic Bakery, but becomes its own crazy track. So I think a lot of people might prefer this version. It's using more modern instruments. It isn't limited to 4 sound channels. Proper dance track we're getting right now. Straight in. And this version uses the rest of the track. It just hits straight away. We get the main melody. Sound in the background, which is really cool. And then it goes into the secondary melody, the slide. Very, very much paying again homage to that original melody that plays. But this is probably a version more people can probably stomach more. It's not so granular, it's not so grainy. It's a lot easier to listen to. So the interesting thing about this track is it basically plays the track first and then becomes its own thing. This version, by the way, is by Tomas Danko. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I don't know anything about Platypus other than it's a side-scrolling shooter. All I know is the music's phenomenal, from what I've heard. It's just such a nice, clean version with this sort of beat behind it that really works for the track. I think the original almost feels like it had this in mind. I think so. We get into a bit of a breakdown, and then it becomes again. It keeps that underlying melody, but becomes sort of something its own thing. Like the modernization of some of these parts as well. It's really interesting. Like I could sit on YouTube and just type in Comic Bakery remix and Comic Bakery loader tune. You'd be shocked how much stuff comes up. I've seen some really cool versions. Press Play on Tape is like a nerdy band. Basically wrote a boy band version of this track, of using that track. There's Instant Remedies, quite a famous one. The remix has done it. There's a ton of different versions of it. Oh, that kick drum's coming in strong. I'm kind of waiting for it to really change, so you guys can see that it has a big change. But I love the song. I think the track is one of the all-time greats. I think it's up there with some of the classics. Oh yeah, we have this like break. And this is where it kind of changes into its own thing for the next sort of few minutes. I think this is an all-time classic. I think there's a reason why people love this track. It's incredibly catchy. Ready? And this is a good remix. Just keeps plodding along doing its own thing. I love it. But yeah, Comic Bakery is one of those bits of music that has preceded the game. Like, succeeded the game, I should say. Like, people... Weird organ part going on now. But people know the songs, the track, over the game. People don't really think about the game. I don't think people really care about the game so much as they do the music. And obviously this is a piece of music that was just written for the time. Martin Galway did a fantastic version. of the fantastic original version of that track, and then people just loved it so much that it's gained traction. As you can hear, this track's just going off on its own now, which is a great way to, you know, finish it off. And it keeps going for like another couple of minutes. I want to highlight this piece of music because I think it's a really powerful statement when certain video game tracks can sort of transcend their original game. Because ultimately, most people that play video games incorporate the music in the game, you know, all that sort of stuff. Comet Bakery, because of its time period when it came out, is quite a basic, simple game. And I think because the music is super catchy and there's obviously a big demo scene, there's a ton of composers out there that love video game music, that this track just blew up. This is up there with your Tetris theme. This is up there with your Mario theme. Maybe not quite like, you know, as a great, because most people can know what the Mario theme and Tetris theme are and they'll hum that, whatever. But I think this track is, it's just legendary in its own right. And being in like the video game pantheon of tracks, it deserves to be there, because again, nobody talks about the game, they talk about how good the music is, and you can just go on to YouTube and look at that and listen to the different versions, watch the different videos people have made. It's just that iconic, and I think that's something that I just kind of wanted to highlight today, that it's crazy sometimes when something transcends its media, and in this case, Comet Bakery's theme, or loader theme, main theme, whatever you want to call it, transcend that game, and it's become beloved between, you know, in the video game industry, and by a ton of composers, of, you know, chiptune composers, non-chiptune composers, like just people that like making electronic music, and there's covers and all that sort of stuff. There's tons of covers of the Jurassic Park version as well. So, you know, it all comes full circle, and I love it. And I think it's wonderful that, you know, despite people being like, what's this game? A game made and published by Konami. This bit of music has survived the test of time, really. So anyway, that's going to do it for me today then, guys. Thank you so much for watching and listening. As always, if you like the video, hit like. If you want to see more content, then hit that subscribe button. Links for Facebook and Twitter will be down below in the description as always. And until next video, I will see you then.